Stu McCall here, boots on the ground in the office with the CC3 management system returning some parts. Let's take a look real quick at just exactly how to do that. So I'm going to make an assumption you are in an RO, looks something like this, lower right-hand corner, lower left-hand corner, down in here, F4 for lines, and from there we go to F4 for parts. Now in here on this particular RO, we see that there are a few parts that have been purchased and tracked in. There's a part right here at the top, and there's two parts down here at the bottom, or in the middle rather. I'm going to go ahead and return these two parts down here. Highlight the part, then you click down below where it says F6 for return. Do you see how when I click on F6 for return, it lights it up with an R for return? Not an X for here, but this is now an R. And it shows me a star right here, which means this is part of this return right here, as compared to a previous return, which wouldn't have a star. It's already been returned. I'm going to return both these parts. Again, I tagged them both. They both show up with an R there. You see that R? I'm going to hit the Escape to Bail button, and it's going to automatically load up the fact that the vendor, in this case the vendor was recorded as FNIT, Finley Toyota, and the invoice number was taken off there because both those bits of information were entered when those parts were originally tracked to the RO. I could override this information, the invoice number and the vendor, if maybe I didn't track it originally when I was returning these parts. It's going to go ahead and have the return amount here, true, T, true for return part slip, and I could put a reason in here if I wanted to print that reason on the part return sheet that's about ready to print out. These parts weren't not good enough, or whatever the reason is. You don't have to put a reason in, but it'll attach itself to this return sheet that's going to print. I'm going to hit print right here, and I don't actually have a printer attached, so I'm just going to hit escape and ignore and not print that. But let's take a look at the exact printout right here. I'm going to go ahead and print that out, and we're going to take a look at it. So the part return sheet looks like this, okay, and it shows the parts that are going to be returned, your company logo up here, and who you're returning it to. And it has this line right down the middle. The top and the bottom are both exactly the same. I mean, it's a copy. So it's pretty cool. It prints a duplicate copy there, and that's important because you're going to need to keep a copy, and you're going to want to send a copy of that with the driver to take the parts back to the part return place. The reason, of course, it's so important to keep your copy is because the driver is going to sign for the parts right here. He's going to sign that he took these parts back there. You're going to give him this copy. He takes that copy back with the parts. Again, all the detailed information with the part numbers and everything like that are on the part return sheet that prints out. So that's pretty handy. But now the question is, what happened to the actual job costing of this RO now that we returned the parts? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to hit the escape key and get all the way out of the lines, and then I'll jump in here to F6 for close. Let's take a look at what happened in the invoice section. If I look at parts costs, parts cost $357. What's that all about? If I double click on parts cost $357, I'm going to see, oh look, there's a credit back for $46.11. You see that right there? $46.11 was credited back to this RO's job costing because we are requesting that the $46 be refunded to us. And of course, we need to remove that cost off the RO itself. Okay, that's great. But what else happened to that return is that it goes to a credit memo. Here on the main menu, do you see credit memos? This is a really strong feature of CC3, and what happens is it doesn't go directly to accounts payable yet. It actually holds that return here in the credit memo ledger. And in this particular case, this is the credit memo that we had. Do you see it right here for $46.11? That was what we just returned just a minute ago and to that RO. And when I actually get the credit memo back from the vendor, I can then clear it off the credit memo ledger. This verifies that the vendor has recognized that the return is forthcoming, that you're going to be able to take it on the payable ledger when you actually have to pay the vendor for all the parts you purchased from that month. So I'm going to highlight this when I actually get the credit memo back. Now notice that the invoice number again is this number right here that was on the original parts when I bought them, But now, when I highlight this and I hit post credit memo, it's going to ask you for the credit memo number that comes back on that credit memo sheet from the actual vendor itself. That, of course, won't be the same as an invoice number. That is a different number. So I'll just make up the number, and we're going to say that that was the credit memo number that was on the that was on the credit memo that came in. Once you post that, you're going to hit post and scan, and it's going to go ahead and post that to the payable ledger, and that's the end of the process. You're going to hit post and post that to the credit memo ledger just like that. That is how the process works. So that's the process. We go ahead and go directly to the RO. We go to the lines of the RO. We go parts tracking. We tag the parts that are going to be returned. When we escape, we end up automatically printing a part return sheet. We split the part return sheet in half. We keep half because the driver signs for him. He takes the other half back to the parts house, and that records as a negative to the actual RO itself, meaning it takes the money away from the cost of the RO, and then we go from the main menu to the credit memo ledger, find the credit memo in there. When we actually get the credit memo back from the vendor, we will then take the credit memo off the credit memo ledger, allowing us to keep track of the vendor, making sure they're giving us the credits for the parts that we're returning. If you have any questions about this, please give me a call. I'm glad to do that. And you'll notice that right up here in the upper left-hand corner of the software, there's my phone number, 360-477-9617. Call me directly at any time, and I'll see what I can do to help you if you have any questions with that. Thank you very much. Have a great day.